The Forestry Commission has begun assessing the impact of the ban on rosewood harvesting in the country. The Commission says the ban is in line with the quest to preserve forest reserves in the country. The Commission is expected to lift the ban after the assessment. Here's Ebenezer Sabote's report.
Government in 2017 placed a ban on the harvesting, trading and export of rosewood from Ghana as a measure to prevent the depletion of the species from Ghana's forest reserves due to its high demand. Speaking after addressing a two-day conference on timber trading organized by the International Timber Trading Agency, BVRO, in collaboration with ProForest and the Ghana Forestry Commission, Deputy Chief Executive of the Commission, John Alote, noted a major assessment of the ban will help government control its depletion.
The forest is to regenerate itself, and we need a mix of those species to maintain the ecology and biodiversity there. So then you would only be able to come back to that compartment after 40 years, so that it will allow the forest to regenerate itself. So assessment is made from time to time depending on the species, and then we grade them. We know the species are in terms of availability are high. Some are very low. Some of them, like the rosewood, is placed in maybe a different some category, and must keep an eye on it, because you don't want some species to go extinct. You don't find them, and then others will be in abundance. You want to be able to balance. So depending on the availability, then for a particular area, you determine that this one, because of the studies I've done and it has low availability, then fewer numbers should be taken.
The Commission is also partnering with BVRO to launch an online portal to give information on timber trading in Ghana. James Parker is director at the BVRO West and Central Africa.
The person who is buying the timber and placing it first on the market of this country must ensure that he's buying legal timber. And they have to do what we call due diligence. Now it has become difficult for their traders to do due diligence, because you need what we call the verification document. So what BVRO is doing is that we have developed an electronic platform where we have linked our system to Forestry Commission. So if you buy through our platform, you are sure of buying legal timber. What we have done is that all the verification document is uploaded. And we are not only doing it for Ghana. Liberia also signed a VPA. Cote d'Ivoire has also signed a VPA. Cameroon has also done that. Gabon, and then Indonesia. Right now, it is only Indonesia who has gone through all the process and they are exporting flight licenses. But how can the trader know that this guy is selling legal timber to me? So what we have done is that we have an online platform. You put your product on it, we do the verification, we assist the buyer to do the checks, and then you are okay.
The two-day conference forms part of activities to open the 22nd International Trade Fair and Exhibition in Accra. Participants were drawn from Europe and other African countries.
Now, Vice President of the International Air Transport Association, IATA, has pegged the success of a new national carrier to sufficient capitalization and proper management. Ralph Kuchi attributes the woes of the defunct Ghana Airways to the lack of proper funding and poor management, among others. Mr. Kuchi spoke exclusively to Joy Business.
Once the pride of the nation, Ghana Airways, the national carrier, halted operations in 2004 as a result of several challenges, including inadequate funding. Since then, there have been several efforts to come up with a national carrier, but to no avail. Currently, attempts are being made by the Ministry of Aviation to establish a new national carrier. 3 airlines, Air Mauritius, Ethiopian Air, and indigenous carrier Africa World Air, are deeply engaged with government for setting up a national carrier. However, the Vice President of IATA is cautioning that the right factors need to be put in place to ensure the success of such a carrier.
The root cause of all of this was undercapitalization. We had old fleets that were not efficient to operate anymore. The second element was actually government interference. You have an airline whose management and whose board were largely appointed by government. Now, in some cases, without consideration to the competencies and skills of these people to actually run an airline. Now, for you to set up another airline, you want to avoid these things. First, you want to have the right level of capital. Start small. Don't go on very prestigious routes. Every airline starts up in Ghana and it says, we want to fly to London. What is in London? The fare from Accra to Dakar is far better. The yields, the money you make on a ticket Accra-Dakar is far, far better than the money you will make on an Accra-London ticket. And that is why, for starters, the right level of capital, the right choice of equipment, the type of aircraft to fly is very important. Choose the right aircraft. Don't go and get an aircraft that is parked there by somebody and you say the person tells you it's cheap. We have an aircraft, you can come and pick it up and then pay us $250,000 every month. And you say, wow, this is a big deal. We can do business with this. At all. The third thing is get the right level of management. You need to get professionals. You need to train your people and retrain and retrain.
He was also upbeat the creation of the new airline for the country will be a major prerequisite for the establishment of an aviation hub.
In actual fact, if you want to stimulate demand for air travel in the Ghanaian market, if you want to make Ghana a hub for air travel in West Africa, you cannot do that and you can never achieve that until you have a strong home-based operator out of Accra or Ghana. Now, to that extent, the government's thinking in coming up with an airline is good.
Currently, policy approval has also been given by government to pave way for the establishment of the new national carrier. Sheila Tamaklo, Joy Business.
We are turning to the latest developments on the IMF program, and government could be forced to introduce new taxes this year to make up for expected revenue shortfall. Now, sources say this would only happen if government heeds to proposals from the IMF. The following Business Desk report has more on why the fund is making these proposals and whether they would have their way.
Business understands these proposals have been influenced by fears that governments may struggle to meet the projected revenue target of 51 billion cedis. This is because the IMF is still worried the current measures are still not enough to finance the over 11 billion budget deficit. This has led the IMF proposing to government to pass the necessary laws that would aid introduction of new taxes as well as fresh revenue measures to help raise an extra 1 billion cedis. These laws should be passed before the end of this month. This suggestion could possibly lead to an increase in the National Health Insurance Levy from 2.5% to 3.5%, or increased net contribution to the National Health Insurance Levy, or even communication service tax. There are proposals for introducing tax on luxury vehicles and corporate minimum tax. Sources suggest steps should be taken to work on these initiatives before the end of this month for possible introduction from July this year. Now, all these things must be done before the IMF staff goes to its board on April 9 to approve the next tranche of cash for Ghana. Any delays in going to the board could send wrong signals to the investors and donors, resulting in the country being punished severely. Sources say there are strong indications government may turn down these proposals, especially when the fund is asking it to limit its Eurobond issuance to $500 million against the $2 billion proposed.
Barclays Ghana says it does not expect the planned name change to impact negatively on its operations. Barclays Africa last week announced a change in identity to ABSA, which is subject to regulatory approval. Now, this means that Barclays Ghana would become ABSA Ghana by June 2020. Managing Director of Barclays Ghana, Patience Achianu, has been speaking to Joy Business about measures being instituted to ensure a smooth transition.
We fully appreciate how entrenched and important the Barclays brand is to many of our customers. Indeed, Barclays has been in the heart of Ghanaians for over 100 years. But we'd like to assure them that this transition will be managed with utmost care and will take into consideration all stakeholder and regulatory requirements to ensure that the process is seamless.
There are people who are worried that do I get from you there have been a lot of extensive engagement with these core clients that in terms of the immediate negative impact on the brand, you have dealt with that immediate shock?
Yes. Indeed, one of the things that we did was to write to all our customers, explaining to them that actually this transition is even going to make our service to them better. And we're following that up with visits. So my team in the corporate and business banking functions are engaging all our key customers. Actually, I'm also engaging our top stakeholders, and I have a meeting just right after.
Some would say that what is also being done, all other things being equal, and you said you have up to June 2020. What is the plan, not specific dates, in terms of this rollout that you spoke about? That are we looking at all things being equal? If you should get the approval this year, possibly rollout to start from next year, so, or you want to still work within the time that you have?
The plan is not to rush and to carefully engage all stakeholders and bring them along on the journey. So we'll choose when it's right for us, but we have within up to 2020 June to work.
And that's what you're working towards too?
Yes, within the period up to June 2020.
During the engagement by the group, they talked about some sale of assets. You also talked about going forward, expect a new upside in terms of service offering and all the rest. Would this thing lead to any restructuring of assets and even with terms of personnel as well? Are we going to need more people, or some could be asked that the new face of APSA, we may not need Georgia Festo working in X department?
No, the brand change is not expected to directly impact employees. So we don't expect any restructuring as a direct consequence of this brand change. However, to position ourselves to be able to deliver on our new strategy, we'll constantly be reviewing our operating model, and we'll take the right decisions.
Well, we'll still stay in the banking space, because banking consultant Nanoto Champon has warned that low confidence of Ghanaians in microfinance institutions will have a huge impact on the nation's economy. The failure of some financial institutions over the years to fulfill their mandate to customers has become a source of worry to the industry. There are fears that some microfinance companies are likely to toe the way of DKM microfinance. Now, Nanoto Champon laments the situation is alarming and is urging the need to instill some sanity into the operations.
Seriously, because at the end of the day, what is banking? Banking is taking money from depositors and giving out loans. And so if there are no monies that banks are receiving to give out as loans, the economy will not turn over, because the monies that economic agents borrow are used for productivity. Is for the microfinance institutions to work within the remit that the law gives them, i.e., they should stay within microfinance. And by microfinance, we mean small monies, not going into the millions and millions, because presently their minimum capital is 500,000, going into 2 million from the end of this year, in December. Now, therefore, if your minimum capital is 500,000, and you decide to lend, 10 million, which is a multiple of 20 times your minimum capital, you have veered from your core business.
Now, despite the grace period given local manufacturing firms to affix their products with tax stamps, compliance still remains a big challenge. The cost involved in purchasing their fixing machines is seen as a major constraint which threatens price increases on the market. In this next report, Charles Aite explores some of the outstanding concerns of local manufacturing firms who say the 3-month grace period still does not address their challenge.
The Revenue Authority has given up to June this year for all local manufacturers of alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages, as well as some selected products, to fully comply with the directive. So far, reports say that some manufacturing firms have shut down their plants as they will be overburdened by the tax stamp implementation. The Food and Beverage Association says it fears many more companies may follow suit. It is also not ruling out the fact that there could be further price increases beverages as a result of the taxes. The Blow Group of companies, producers of Belacqua mineral water and other selected non-alcoholic beverages, is also confronted by this same challenge. Despite their huge share of the market, the company says the implementation of the tax stamp policy has made doing business in Ghana very burdensome. Head of Sales and Marketing of the Blow Group of companies, Raj Mapuri, tells Joy Business even though the local manufacturing firm is putting together resources to purchase a tax-affixing machine, the strain on their already limited budget cannot be overemphasized.
You see, presently we have no choice. We have to start planning ourselves and organizing ourselves towards that. But I think this is not fair, what they are doing to Ghanaians. You know, especially March is the month of Ghana, made in Ghana, and we have to put this extra cost passed on to the people. It's very wrong.
Speaking of passing on the cost to other people, isn't there any other alternative to recoup the losses than passing it on to the consumer?
You see, with Belacqua for the past 3 years, we have not increased prices. We have maintained our prices because we understand what Ghana is going through. And now with this overburden cost, it has to be passed on, which means increasing our prices.
The company will have to invest over $800,000 on investments and installation charges for the fixing machines. Raj Mapuri says government is being insensitive to local manufacturing firms.
2018, the way we see is getting very tough. But I think this is not fair, what they are doing to Ghanaians. You know, especially March is the month of Ghana, made in Ghana, and we have to put this extra cost passed on to the people. It's very wrong.
They say that they're just not being treated fairly, as the cost incurred related to the procurement of these machines could result in some severe operational challenges. The main question therefore remains, is a 3-month extension actually enough for these troubled local manufacturing firms? For Joy Business, Charles Aita reporting.
Well, still with manufacturing, and in order to complement the effort of government in its plans to implement the One District, One Factory project, a water bottling plant is on the verge of being completed at Jirapa in the Upper West region. The water plant, which is part of a 126-bedroom hotel facility for Royal Cozy Hill Hotel, is already 80% complete. Public Relations Officer of Royal Cozy Hill Hotel, Samuel Frimpong, said the bottling plant, when completed, will package water for sale in the northern belt of the country. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Jirapa.
The general meeting of members of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs was for the first time held outside the regional capital, Wa, and at the Royal Cozy Hill Hotel located at Jirapa. Construction work on the 126-bedroom hotel facility, better known as Jirapa, Dubai, has reached advanced stage of completion. However, the executive mansion, built with the state-of-the-art equipment, the conference room, and the bar, have already been completed ahead of the completion date. Public Relations Officer of the Royal Cozy Hill Hotel, Samuel Frimpong, outlined to the revered chiefs the services the hotel will be rendering when fully completed. A water bottling plant is also under construction, and when completed, will serve the northern belt of the country and some countries in the Sahelian region. This, Mr. Frimpong said, will well fit into the government's program of One District, One Factory for the district.
We have a presidential villa, which I can proudly say is dripping in luxury and mind-blowing views. The facility seeks to attract high-class international tourists from all over the world, as well as top-notch corporate executives and presidents from Ghana and presidents from other parts of the world, especially our neighboring countries. We also have our water bottling factory, which is about 80% complete. And we can safely say that Jirapa has taken the lead regarding the president's vision of a One District, One Factory. Jirapa has its factory already, and it's almost 80% complete.
A safari is also being created at the back of the hotel, and plans are afoot to bring wild animals to attract local and international tourists. President of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs, Koro Richard Babini Canton the Chief, commended the Chief Executive Officer of Royal Cozy Hill Hotel, Eric Johnson, for deciding to put up the magnificent edifice at Jiraba.
We all commend and learn from this selfless personality for its investment in Jirapa, his hometown. Other citizens of the region have invested elsewhere for good returns on their investment, but he has chosen to contribute to the local economy of Jirapa by investing to attract tourists, create jobs, and promote ecotourism.
Acting Upper West Regional Minister Amidu Chinia Isaku urged other sons and daughters of the region to follow the example of Eric Johnson and invest in the region.
We all know, just observing the facility, you can imagine the amount of money that has been expended here. And our brother could have done this elsewhere. That would have immediately brought a lot of money to replenish whatever investment that he has done. But he chose to do it in Jirapa in the Upper West region for very good reasons. Because he loved the Upper West. People may not see the effect of Jirapa Dubai on the fast development of Upper West. But when you move outside Upper West and you listen to people, the gossip, the information out there about the kind of facility that we have in Jirapa in the Upper West region, and the desire of people to come to Jirapa to see the facility tells you the positive effect it has on Upper West. And I think that we have to commend him as a region, and we have to encourage other brothers and sisters to emulate his example and invest in our local economies so that Upper West will not be a place where people are motivated to move to Kumasi or Accra to look for non-existent jobs, but to stay in Upper West and take advantage of the opportunities that we have here.
Reporting for Joy Business, Rafiq Salam, Jiraba.
Well, new developments in the mining sector today want to update you on. The Ghana Mine Workers Union is threatening a nationwide strike to register its displeasure about some workers of Takwa Goldfields who have been forced to sign redundancy letters. There were earlier reports military personnel invaded the offices of Takwa Goldfields, intimidating workers and asking them to sign against their will. Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, Abdul Mumin Bana, who spoke on the marketplace, threatened a nationwide action after deliberating on the situation with executives of the union.
Indeed, it has changed, but it has changed for the worse. Because as I speak to you now, they have actually intensified the military presence. And so to the extent that they have seen the need to increase military presence, that in itself is a clear signal that nothing has changed for the better. So it's a very worse situation as it stands now.
Now, has any worker signed or been forced to sign any letter as yet?
Well, the issue about workers or a worker to sign is a foregone matter because majority of the workers were coerced to sign. You either signed or you were thrown out of the mine premises. And that's the situation we are sitting here with.
And if...
Well, nobody can understand what contractual agreement that Goldfields is imposing on these workers. Because if you say sign a redundancy letter, and on the other breath you say sign a fixed-term contract for 1 month, and that fixed-term contract, the worker has no clue about what the terms and conditions are.
Of course, we have eyes on that story. We'll give you updates subsequently. Now turning to the stock market, it's a Monday. Joining me in studio is Bertha Tubiga of Gold Coast Fund Management. And you have good news about the cedi. Let's start with that.
Okay, thank you very much. The cedi is currently recording a year-to-date depreciation against the dollar at 0.06%. That is very, very, very stable. That's to tell you the dollar has been very stable and very extremely impressive. And it's also recording some losses that it lost against the pound and euro early part of this year. And based on the Gold Coast City Index, it's recording a year-to-date loss of 2.04% against the pound, and then 2.85% against the euro. And if you look at the holistic year-to-date as to how the city is performing against these major trading currencies, it's recording 1.24%, which is impressive, and we're expecting it to be stable in as we go. This year, we should expect the city to be a bit stable as compared to last year.
Great way to start the week. Let's talk about the stock market, because last week we saw the first advertising firm in the country start an IPO. And what's the latest on that? I mean, I know that we have till the 16th of March.
Yeah. Well, the IPO is ongoing, and so far it's been very impressive. We've seen a lot of people come on board to buy shares, invest in this DigiCat's IPO. Now, one thing about IPOs is that it's free. It doesn't come with any extra cost. You don't have to pay for any cost in buying these shares, unlike the secondary market where you have to incur some other cost for like trying to trade on the stock market. So this is an opportunity for investors to actually make some income in the long term. And one thing they should also know, that most companies come on the market with their books in negatives, that they're making losses and they want to, let's say, cover up some debts that they've taken. But this is a company that has done so well. For the past year, since it started, it has released very impressive results. So it's a very good company. It's 8 pesos. You need minimum of 60 Ghana cedis to start, and you can do that at any Gold Coast branch office or any GN bank. Yeah. All right, and I'm told we've run out of time on this one. So we'll quickly move to our interview of the day. And some operators in the foreign exchange market are urging local entrepreneurs to deal in online currency trading as an alternative source of income. Assistant Manager of Teletrade Ghana, Evans Frimpong Owari, said the platform will enable local businesses to earn more income to finance their businesses instead of applying for loans at banks. He spoke to Joy Business on the sidelines of a business and finance partnership seminar held in Accra.
To educate the entrepreneurs on how they can run their own finances, how they can get their own income without depending on others in running their project and their investment they also offer.
So exactly what are these entrepreneurs not doing right?
Most of the entrepreneurs are looking up to, how do I get income to start my work? And most of them depend on families. Most of them have to go to the bank, go and look for loans, and even the interest rate on that loans are huge. So looking at it, we had a solution, and the solution we had is a trading that we do. We train you, the entrepreneur, on the forex market, which is the investment market. The investment market is also not all that you have to trade within 24 hours. It's just an hour. You trade, you gain your profit, you use your profit in running your business.